Today I'd like to go over a few questions I get asked all the time on my Instagram and on YouTube. First question I usually get asked is, why did I choose a supercharger over a twin turbo or a turbo setup? The reason I went with a supercharger is because I tow with my pickup, and for me, the low end power, the torque that you get off the line was a lot better for towing. Whereas the horsepower that you pick up on a turbo is higher in the RPMs and not as usable for towing as what the supercharger is. Next, I get asked a lot is, why did I choose a Magnuson over a Whipple? I've talked to several different shops, including LINGENFELTER and Black Bear Tuning, and a local shop that builds race Corvettes. All of them told me the same thing. The Whipple makes more power when it's cool, but it gets hotter and stays hotter longer than the Magnuson. Also, a big difference on the Magnuson compared to the Whipple, the Magnuson moves your throttle body over here, where on the Whipple it stays in the stock position. So you can use a stock cold air intake and it will work perfect with a Whipple. Where I had to cut my AFE air intake and make my own bracket to hold it so that it would work. Next question, why did I go with a 2300 over a TVS 1900? This is a real simple question. The price was the same last year on sale for the TVS 2300 as it was for the TVS 1900. With the 2300, you get more air in volume into the engine with less PSI. And if and when I build my engine up, it'll be a lot easier to make more power with a bigger supercharger. Next question I usually get asked is, what would the first mods or upgrades you would do to your vehicle? And I always reply with cold air intake, exhaust, and tune. Me, I went with a full dual exhaust from the cat's back. Then I upgraded to long tube headers. They're PACESETTER 1 7/8 with no cats currently, full dual exhaust, 2 1/4-inch pipe, all the way to the MAGNAFLOW TrueX muffler, and out the dual exhaust tips. Next, when I did this, I got a custom tune from Diablo on through email. I had to have a Diablo Sport tuner, and he custom built a tune for me. Best money I could spend. His tunes are by far the best I found for a non-boosted engine. Next, obviously, I went with the supercharger. I could have went with cams, ported heads, and maybe even a built lower end, but I decided to add the supercharger now, and then I can do the cam, heads, and other parts later. I also added MSD wires, which don't really help, but do give you a good look under your engine. Next, if you hadn't already seen, I added a Mechman 250 amp alternator. This was because of the stereo I added in the vehicle was too much for the stock alternator. With that, I added bigger power wires and 4 extra grounds to the body, chassis, and to the engine. This was to help keep the alternator grounded properly and not having issues when it's charging. One of the most common questions I get about the vehicle is, what kind of lift did I go with? And I went with a Ready Lift, 6.5-inch lift with the spacers for the struts. So far, this lift has been awesome. I have yet to have any real problems with it, and any problem I have had, they have taken care of for me. Next, I get asked what tires I run. I'm running Cooper Discoverers 35 1250 by 20. These are great tires. I've had them on for a little over 10,000 miles. Love them, they ride great, and I've had no issues with them. Now, as far as the rims go, these were on the pickup when I bought it. This and the two-tone paint was part of a package. I have just ran the rims for now. Eventually, I'm going to upgrade. Lastly, this is the best investment I made when I was lifting my pickup. I put rough country traction bars on here to help with the lift in the rear end and to help with the extra added power from the supercharger. This keeps my pickup from skipping or hopping at all from a dead stop. All it does is lays a nice patch and lets you go. You don't feel any kind of jumping or moving of the rear end like you would without them.